We should have one, right?
We are live.
We are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fourcast with our XRP QFS team here. We're here on the Mel Carmine show, and we're coming to you live. Elisa V here. I am out here on Long Island with Mike Barra out in Las Vegas, Laura Eisenhower in Montana, and we've got Frank out on the West Coast in California. So unfortunately today Mel is out sick. He's battling a bad cold, and we do have our special guest here today, Frank Mancini, who'll be joining us as our fourth. How you doing, guys?
Good. We got to get Mel on some ivermectin, right? I haven't been sick since Brooks Agnew got me my Ivan, and we got to get him on that so he's never sick. I mean, come on. But you guys all have it in your medicine cabinet. You gotta just pop that stuff as soon as you feel bad. Boom, goes away.
Well, great. My understanding is he's been taking it. I don't know what's happening with poor Mel, but I know he and Amber got hit pretty bad after this last little round of traveling that they were on.
Yeah, you have to make sure you take the right amount for your body weight. That's the key thing. Okay. But yeah, good.
We should probably do a show, like have that as part of a segment on one of our shows.
Right, exactly. Yeah, right? But that means you have to admit what your actual real body weight is. So that's a problem.
Keep that a secret.
No, right? I'm only taking one pill, not two, because I'm not a two pill person. So there we are.
Yeah. So anyway, I want to tell everybody out there a little bit about Frank, who's joining us today. You know, Frank is a small business owner. He's a legal immigrant. And he actually is a U.S. Navy veteran, as well as a veteran and health advocate. And he served on many advisory boards, including the U.S. Small Business Administration's Advisory Committee on Veterans Business Affairs in Washington, D.C., and the California Department of Veterans Affairs. And these appointments have enabled him to directly contribute and impact government policy at the federal, state, and local levels and enable small business programs for veterans. Frank also has extensive experience in laser pain management therapy with thousands of hours as a high power laser technician. And I know, Frank, you're a follower of truth, and you and Mel have been friends for a long time. So we welcome you here to the Fourcast today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yeah. So we've got a great show today. A few shout outs to some of my patriots here on Long Island who are following my Awakened Patriots on Long Island Telegram channel. We've got Remy, we've got Billy, Kathy, and Steve. And of course, to our loyal follower in Costa Rica, we want to send out a huge hello to Carol Maureen. So,
wow, we have a follower in Costa Rica. Hello, Costa Rica.
Yes. Carol Maureen, she was actually at the summit, if you remember. She was one of our speakers.
Oh, yeah. I remember now. Yeah, that was a fun and informative weekend for sure.
Certainly was. So, all right. So I think today what we're going to do is we want to take a deep dive into taking a look at some of the comms and some of the things that President Trump has told us. Many people don't realize just how important his inaugural speech in 2017 was. And it was full of a lot of comms, and he laid everything out then. And we're going to try to unravel that today. We're going to share some videos with you. And I know Mike has a bunch of things he wants to share. And then we're just going to kind of dig into that. How's that sound, team?
Sounds good to me.
Great. All right. So we're going to play this clip, and I want everyone to bear with me because I am so not the technical person, and I don't have Amber with me the way Mel does every week. So I'm going to do my best to share this very short clip, and then we'll kind of get our discussions going from there. So give me 1 second to do this.
You that don't have a clue what's going on.
Can we see that?
I'm going to explain something to you. And I hope and pray that you listen. 2017, Trump's inauguration speech is where it all starts. He came out and said, "Today we are not transferring power from one administration to the next, or from one party to the next, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C. and giving it back to you, a lot of people. What he did that day, a lot of people don't understand. He eliminated the entire Act of 1871 right there. He had military intelligence on one side of him. They monitor everything, they record everything, emails, text messages, phone calls, etc. He had military tribunal judges on the other side. And he told you, for too long, a small group of people have reaped the rewards of government while the people have bore the cost. And he said that stops here, that stops now, that stopped today. Right after that, he did an executive order, 13818, 13903. The 13903 was arrest all involved in human trafficking worldwide, seize any and all property of anybody involved in human trafficking worldwide. That took out all your royal families, all of your government officials right fucking there. It took out presidents through other countries, ex-presidents, actors, rappers, country singers, etc. Okay? Man, Executive Order 13818 was put in place to protect we, the people. Inside of that, it tells you property blocked for human rights abuse and corruption. The corruption part's easy. All your federal, state, city, county, local laws, all your state statutes, all of your fucking gun laws, including background checks for guns that don't exist. And they haven't since 2017. The human rights abuse part is this. Go look up Universal Human Rights Declaration Act, Articles 1 through 30, and it tells you right there, you were born free to live free. You were never supposed to be charged anything to live freely. In other words, you were not supposed to pay your rent, your mortgage, your loans, your credit cards. You're not supposed to pay for any damn thing. That is backed up by Abraham Lincoln's executive order, the promissory note. A lot of you guys don't understand that. Okay. In 2020, COVID happened. Okay, COVID, it doesn't exist. It was the vaccine that people ran to the hospital to get. Okay, that vaccine was a bioweapon. It was made to kill people. You'll find that out. However, Trump's warp speed stopped them from actually putting a lot of black and poison in that shit. You'll find that out. Moving on. A lot of people don't understand. On November 2nd, 2020, Trump signed the Proclamation Act of 1776, bringing us back to constitutional law only. He already gave us the power back, made us a sovereign country. Okay, now, moving on. July 4th, 2020, he did a second Declaration of Independence nobody knew about. You'll find that out. Moving on. December 9th, a lot of people don't know this. He signed the Insurrection Act because the government was trying to steal the country back from we the people by stealth. We thought there was supposed to be an election. No, nobody caught on to what he said in 2017. Once he gave power back to we the people, there is no fucking election. There was no more government right there. Gone. The Act of 1871. Bankrupt, dissolved, gone. Bye. Get over it, okay? Because now you're seeing a bunch of federal, state, cops, all kinds of people that are empowered and controlled over we the people being arrested on federal indictments. It's going to get worse. They came out and said that all law enforcement officials will be arrested for operating illegally in the United States Republic. All attorneys will be arrested also because they are a British accreditation registry. It is a foreign organization operating illegally in the United States. Now, Everybody thought Trump left in 2021. Okay, no. You need to go look up Executive Order 13961. It was never a transfer of power. It was a continuation of government handing full authority and power over to the United States military through the Insurrection Act on January 9th of 2021. On January 11th of 2021, Trump signed an Emergency Declaration Act for D.C., resulting from the problems with the 59th presidential inauguration. They faked an inauguration so that it would never cause a civil unrest. He stepped to the side and shined the spotlight on your real criminals, which was your government. Now, it makes their job a lot easier because people understand that the government was so fucking corrupt, they were so fucking sick, ripping people's faces off, all for a thing called adrenochrome, human trafficking children through fucking federal court systems. Yeah, your judges are fucked. Every single attorney has been enforcing illegal unconstitutional laws since 2017. However, we've been common law since January 17th, 1963. Problem is the government never wanted to uphold that law because they knew if they did, they would lose power and control over we the people, and they would not ever have any control over us. We don't need a government to babysit us. We can govern ourselves. We don't need to be enslaved by landlords, corporation, company, organization owners that are enforcing federal, state, city, county, local laws, policies, company policies. Okay, all that shit is gone. Eviction notice is gone. Okay, March 4th is gonna be anything but normal. That's all I can tell you. Okay, I'm not at liberty to tell you what's fixing to happen, but there's a reason they're giving you guys the $5,000. My suggestion to you is this: do not spend it on any bills.
Okay, guys. Just he goes on a little bit more, but like that was pretty powerful. And I know it was a little long for anybody who's watching. It was probably probably about 3 minutes, but I think he laid things out, and I thought we could kind of go through this. I mean, he definitely, we've got a couple of dates in there. We start at 2017, January, when President Trump made his first inaugural speech during his first administration. And then he goes through a lot of the dates throughout the next year or so of that administration, 2 years, where he's signing executive orders. He's, signing getting rid of things like the, re-signing the Declaration of Independence, and then of course the Insurrection Act. So I hope we can kind of break this down in like a way that's very digestible for everyone. But I think the key takeaway, at least now, is that life drastically changed in this country, unbeknownst to many people who weren't really paying attention or didn't know how to dissect a lot of this from what President Trump was saying to us. So I'm going to open it up, but Mike, I'd love for you to chime in and give your thoughts on this.
Unbeknownst to those of us who actually also were paying attention, because a lot of shitty things have happened in the last 8 years since then. But it is, I think, really important to look at what he actually said. And if you remember the moment in his speech, I remember this very distinctively, and I'm going to share an image from it, and I have one other image I want to share on Inauguration Day. Let me see if I can. Can you put it up in the screen? It's in the... I can't seem to share it. It's an image of Trump. For some reason, I can't actually share on the screen.
Okay, let me see something. I'm going to try to...
Is it in the background there?
Okay,
and I got one other one.
So is it in the studio, or do you... Oh, I see it.
Yeah.
Are you getting that? Okay, is that it, Mike?
Yeah, that's it. So this moment was really significant because he's talking in his speech. He's been going on for about 15, 20 minutes. And then everyone from all the branches of the military come and they stand in line right behind him, showing that they're behind him. And on his left there, stage right, is where Obama and Biden and the Clintons and the Bushes and all the criminals, I think the Bushes are on the other side, they're all sitting right there. So these military guys are standing up right next to them. And he said, what truly matters is not which party controls our government, but whether our government is controlled by the people. January 20th, 2017, which was that day, will be remembered as the day the people became the rulers of this nation again. And that is a declaration of a republic. It's a separation from a corporate kleptocracy democracy back into a republic. And that's how I took it. And I remember, I took the screen cap of the speech and I went through and listened and quoted exactly what he said. And this is absolutely a declaration of war against the deep state. And what these guys are showing you in the military is showing you all of the different forces are backing him on this. And that's why I was kind of so disappointed the way that this thing has played out, because I really expected a lot more action a lot sooner. And here we are 8 years later, and Jim Comey hasn't even been arrested yet. But there was one other super significant thing that happened on that day, I think. And I wish I had the video of it. And on the video, I have a screen cap from the video. But on the day of the inauguration, there was an inaugural parade. There was one in 2017. I have another image here I want to present. Let me find it, and I'll get it up on the screen.
And, Mike, while you're looking for that, I just want to kind of put in my opinion here that you know, what you said about, let's say, Comey and some of these other bad actors, we haven't seen it, but I think we all pretty much can agree as patriots and people who followed the behind the scenes that a lot of the military actions have taken place behind the scenes. I'll give you an example. You know, we're not hearing a lot of things, but I have it on good authority that even out here on Long Island, within the last, couple of weeks or so, there have been some major arrests, like even within the different postal offices, the post offices, where they're coming in, they're cuffing people, they're taking them out, all with regard to what happened with the steal in 2020. So I think just to bring encouragement to a lot of people and people who are watching us, this is a military operation, right? They don't tell you what they're going to do, right? That wouldn't be smart. But I feel that many of these bad actors that are out there have potentially been taken out. Now we're just waiting to show the movie, if you will, with the masks and those actors, so that the normies can see it play out, because they're not going to necessarily believe.
I'm ready for the movie to start, is all I'm saying. Now, the really interesting thing, I agree with you, Lisa, but I'm ready for the movie to start because we have no real tangible evidence that any of these moves have taken place, right? Yeah. But there was one other thing that happened I thought was super significant. They had the inaugural parade, the inaugural concert, Three Doors Down played. He sat through all that. He looked like he couldn't wait to get out of there, Trump did. And at the end of the parade, they set off the fireworks. And the last three fireworks are supposed to say USA. But if you show the picture now, I've got another one in there, Alicia. If you show the picture now, with the fireworks, when they went off, what they actually spelled out was USR. USR, which I take as meaning United States Republic. And that was not an accident. And I've watched this video over and over again. And at the very end of the concert, before he walks into the White House, the last thing he puts up there is USR, meaning we are now in a state of republic. And I believe that was the declaration that he made in the speech, and that was the symbolic signal that here we are and we moved it. There's no way you make a mistake like that. I've watched the video over. If we managed to pull the video up, you'd see it. But to me, to my mind, when I saw those two things, I'm like, okay, here we go. We're ready to go to war with these guys. I just think we've all been disappointed in how the war's been conducted. At least I am.
So let me, I'd love to hear you guys weigh in on it, Frank and Laura. Frank, love to hear your thoughts on this.
Well, I agree. I agree with you. We don't have any tangible proof of the operation, but what we do have tangible proof of is the systemic dismantling of the United States Republic for the past at least 60 years. We do have a lot of proof about that. So we can infer through that proof that if nothing was done about it, we would find ourselves today in the same condition of many Marxist countries. And it is indisputable that Marxism has taken over local, state, federal governments. You cannot dispute that. You have bureaucrats, and you have also, especially in blue states, you have politicians that have been elected through an electoral system that is, if you don't want to use the word fraud, you can say it's dysfunctional at the very least. It's so dysfunctional that many states have made it illegal, including here in California, where I'm at, to vote with an ID. And when you show up to vote and you tell the person at the polling station, this is my ID, they don't want to look at it. And when you say, well, why can't you look at my ID? And they say, I don't want to get in trouble. I mean, this is literally 1984, Orwellian state. I mean, California per se is in a way, a part of the CCP. The CCP has been conducting operation on U.S. soil since the Clinton administration, full blast, because of the most favored nations that were given by the Clinton administration, that were basically treated as an equal partner by the World Trade Organization. They gave the Chinese Communist Party, which, by the way, it's only 8% of the entire 1.6 billion population in China. So you can see they mastered to have a very small nucleus of people, the ability to rule over 1.6 billion people. And they took the same playbook and they delivered that playbook into Europe. And that's why you have so much. That's why I'm an immigrant. I immigrated here. I'm actually inoculated against communism, because when Italy, and everybody says, "Oh, Italy is such a beautiful place. How can you live there?" And why is the United States full of Italians? For what reason? Because Italy, although it's a beautiful place, a beautiful country, the state, the administrative state, is being taken over by the CCP. Now, you're never going to find a clear label, I'm owned by the CCP. You're not going to find that, but you can infer through all of this. So, it goes to say the following. I love this analogy. The analogy is about the mafia, and that would be, hey, you can never get rid of the mafia, right? Why? Same thing, you can never get rid of cancer. Is that a cure for cancer? Yes. But too many people are eating off the disease. Same thing with the mafia. Can you solve the mafia issue in one day? Yes, you can. But the willingness is not there because too many people are eating off of it. Same thing with United States. There's a new type of liberalism, which in essence is Marxism. Too many people are eating off of it. So you have people that have no skills, no career path. They offer money. They get into this path of politics. And now you have entities, production companies that take people and make them into basically politicians, just like AOC. AOC was picked up from an array of, I believe, 150 women that went to a place that was sponsored by the Democrats, which got the money from whom? Probably some of the money from the CCP as well. And
USA probably came from USAID, right, Frank? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And they ran productions, and then they picked different people, and then the last candidate standing, that she graduated from that. So basically, they're using the same kind of model of the WEF, the world, WEF, when you become a graduate from the WEF, the same thing from college, I believe is Klaus Schwab. Mm-hmm. So it's a big entity. It's like an octopus overreaching the entire. I mean, it didn't happen overnight. It happened over the past 40 years. But unfortunately, many patriots, including myself, We've been sleeping at the wheel for at least the past 20 years because we were busy trying to make a living.
Right.
We took it for granted that the foundation of the United States was on such solid ground that it was impossible. And all the conspiracy theorists in the back of our mind were like, yeah, well, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And then one day we wake up and it did happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, I can infer 100% there is a military operation happening, because if that wasn't, we would be completely SOL.
Yeah.
We'd be completely screwed if there wasn't at least a sliver of the republic still alive, still with a heart beating, that is taking proactive action to dismantle an administrative state that wants to do nothing more than enslave the entire globe. That's all they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Laura,
that's my view.
Thanks. Laura, from like a spiritual and astrological standpoint, right? We've been looking at where things are from 2017. What's your read on like where this military operation, like from when it started, how it is, where it's going? What are the stars saying?
Well, I mean, the stars say, only so much. I mean, they say a lot, but I mean, the roots of all this, the deep state, 1947, 1952, the unconditional surrender agreement under Truman, we surrendered to the interplanetary corporate conglomerate, Nazi Draco Alliance. And when the flyover happened in 1952, this is when the surrender took place. But all of that got removed. All the footage that people took got taken out of the computer by deep state technologies, so that if anybody could say, oh, wow, it hovered for 6 hours, they lost the evidence. Where did it go? It got beamed out. And I've just been talking to a physicist and a whistleblower and a former SSP super soldier who has all that evidence and information. So when that took place, we're talking about this massive infiltration that Frank was getting in depth about. And I love what he shared. It's us humans. How much are we consuming the deep state propaganda, the food that has the GMOs, just the different psyops, false flags that are presented to us? How much do we fall into the divide and conquer? How much do we allow the victimhood to be something to be confident about, to the point where, who's the bigger victim wins? And if they pick, well, it's going to be Black people, or it's going to be this, or it's going to be that, then you have these funded movements that take us further away from the goal. And people think that they're like progressing or fighting for, freedoms, and their intent is in the right place. Same with the climate change people. The intent is in the right place, but all these trigger events create more disruption than unification because of the way it's designed. And starting back 9/11, these false flag events, if we don't peel back the layers and we don't know the root of it all, we're on a surface level, just creating more loosh, more consumption of the deep state tactics. And so until the cartels are taken down, until the deep state is bankrupt, on a business level, where that's the only way that they can really do it because they got their hooks in everywhere, we're not going to be able to really take the next step. And if
finish the job.
And if the electrical grid doesn't go down and we don't start to do, free energy devices and work with the free energy and allow the scientists that have been suppressed to come out and move us into that new direction, we're still very locked into all of it. So the stars are saying there's a massive, awakening happening. All the outer planets are in alignment with each other. When they weren't in alignment with each other, we're dealing with generations of children that are born in sort of this place of a potential fracturing that is being fed upon, that is not being dealt with. These wounds that need to be addressed, and they're being addressed with gender confusion instead of understanding integration of polarity or the electromagnetic energies, how the planetary grid network used to be, how it's been overlaid. So instead of resolving the wounds that have grown and become infected and parasitic forces just feeding on it, the problem reaction solution game is literally baiting our youth and our younger generation into these confused narratives and social engineering campaigns. So we have to expose all of it. It's up to the people to call this out. It's up to the teachers, the doctors, and people on a ground level, the cops, to point out where the swamp has infiltrated those institutions, to be that voice, to be that advocate. And so the energies are really, really strong for people to take that step. And that's how we help Trump. That's how we help the military operations, because the military operations were set in place covertly under Eisenhower's administration to take down the deep state, to begin to pass the baton from those that came before that stood for our freedoms and sovereignty in the Republic of America, to then be the white hats to pass on to Trump. But this deep state has grown so deep and so vast into secret space programs. It's spread its tentacles all over the planet, that it's the people, it's the victims, it's the whistleblowers speaking up that need to not have the smear campaigns or the censorship tarnish the importance of all these voices coming forward right now, because he won't be able to do it alone without us. Yeah. So the military operations are happening, but the deep state wants amnesty. So there's a lot of deals being made to protect reputations. Those have been blackmailed, those who have video footage showing them drugged, doing something nefarious or dark, the blackmail, the death threats, all these different things where a lot of the players, are being compromised by the deep state. Then you got the deep state players that are doing this. So the amnesty for the puppets, you need to come from us understanding what they've been up against to get to the deeper root of what's operating behind them.
Yeah. And, not that we're here to
not answer the question about the stars, though, but it's all a really powerful time for the frequencies to unearth all of this within ourselves versus getting further and further enslaved by the COVID, the more false flags and psyops. That we have to see through it to begin to not feed into it. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just forgot to.
Yeah, no, amazing what you said. But what I was going to say is that, we need to kind of know that, like what you're saying about this whole amnesty thing, like there's kind of the evil ones, and then there's the ones that like you said, drugged, blackmailed, whatever the way that was done. It's very different if someone is threatening to kill you versus kill your family, right? What would you do if that were the case? So are you truly evil, or are you just in a protective mode? So it's weeding through a lot of that. But what I'm interested in throwing out to everyone to talk about, and Mike, you may be able to speak to this. One of the things that was mentioned on that video that we all are pretty aware of and know is when it comes to a lot of these executive orders that were put into place from the time Trump took office, in his first administration. And I don't know if people understand what exactly it means when we throw these terms around, like continuation of government and
right.
Devolution. And one of the executive orders was 13961, where it kind of implemented, if you will, this continuation. Can you speak to that a little bit, or anybody, just let's open the discussion up to that.
Right. Well, I can speak to it a little bit. What's fascinating about it is, in this version of the Trump administration, practically every single executive order has been challenged in court. What's fascinating about all of those executive orders for continuity of government and seizure of properties from those who, violate human rights and are involved in child trafficking and those things, none of them were challenged. None of them were challenged. And it's almost as if the guys on the other side knew that if they challenged these, it would simply expose them. It could be as simple as, who wants to take sides against seizing the property of people involved in human trafficking? That would only point the finger of guilt at you, more dramatically. It could be that, or it could simply be that we are just watching a movie play out, and that these important laws, because under the current corporate constitution, or the one that has existed for a long time, those are laws. When the president signs them, they cover the entire executive branch. It could just be that they basically just couldn't do anything about them anyway. So they're all just pretending to play a role of opposition for the normies. I don't know. But what's fascinating to me about those orders is not that they exist and not what they say. It's that the evil ones, the demons, haven't challenged them. And I think that's a point worthy of discussion. The other thing is, I wanted to say to Frank about the military is, I do have a friend, very, very close friend, just spoke to him the other night. And he used to work for two presidents, one of whom you would admire, one of whom you probably wouldn't admire, in a very close capacity. And he has been at the top levels of government in terms of he's worked on a lot of covert operations, right? If you were to watch, James Bond movies or a movie called The Mechanic or things like that, you would probably know what this guy used to do. But he was pulled in about 3 or 4 years ago now by a general he used to work with at an Air Force base in Arizona, requested to come by and have a chat with this guy he knew. And he went there and he was basically, he said, kind of browbeat and treated badly for about 5 days. And they were asking him, why do you think Joe Biden is not the commander-in-chief? Why do you think Donald Trump is the commander-in-chief? And what do you think will happen if an open civil war breaks out? So anyway, what that told me is that these people were trying to get all of the veterans, I want to say veterans of foreign wars, but all the people that were deep state operatives before that worked for the government, they were bringing them in to find out which side they were going to take if the conflict became an open conflict. And this would have been 2022, 2023. So there is still a war going on in the military. I think it would be a mistake on our part to say to ourselves, oh, the military is uniformly behind President Trump. I think there's probably 300 or 400 flag level officers who are, but there are some on the other side too. And I think we shouldn't discount the possibility that there still is a conflict going on inside our military assets. That's another thing I think is really interesting.
Yeah, and I know Laura could speak to this better than anyone, that we do have those two factions of the military. We have the military industrial complex, which we know, right, is maybe not the good guys. And then we have the other side. And I think what a lot of people don't realize too, which I think we know, even though we may not know the intricacies, like we've all been saying, we don't know. We know that this isn't a traditional kinetic war that we've been in, right? It's a war of information, but there is kinetic activity, right, that's going on when you consider people are being arrested, are people going underground and fighting the forces there and the evil ones there, where, people have been trafficked and other awful things have happened. So I think that this war is bigger than anybody. Nobody really that I speak to, unless it's people that we speak to, like, within the community, if you will, or people that follow us. You talk to any average person, they really have no clue. They have no clue about what's going on. And maybe to Frank's point, it's, people are just trying to get on with the business of living, right? And paying their bills and sending their kids to school and all the stuff that we do. And like Laura said, these are the systems, that need to be kind of dismantled. And if you look at it, Trump came in and he's saying, okay, we're going to get rid of the Department of Education. We're going to set up this Department of Government Efficiency. Like, they're eating away, at the deep state. But to Laura's point, we need to, and maybe that's all part of this whole issue with the censorship, we need to be able to break through to be able to get our message and the truth messages out there so that more and more people can awaken, raise their vibration, and be able to not fall prey to a lot of these things that are going on. I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts just on like the things that were said in that video. Like, what was very interesting was that on, I believe he said September 9th, but then I think he said January 9th, and I'm not exactly sure the date of when the Insurrection Act. Mike, do you know much about that, or Laura or Frank, how that deeper effect that had on our nation? Oh,
I don't remember the exact date of that one. No, I can't speak to that so much.
Right, but in terms of the Insurrection Act.
Well, I mean, there's the red folder. You see Trump with the famous red folder on January 6th. You see him holding up the red folder. You see Vladimir Putin walking around with the infamous red folder. The red folder's made some other appearances here and there. And people do think that these are the continuity of government executive orders, executive actions that say, we're now in a state of military control. But we don't know for sure about that. But the reality is Nobody's ever said what's in the red folder, and why is Trump making such a big deal out of it on January 6th? That was the question that was never answered. And again, to go back to the story I just told, when people are being brought in, veterans of the intelligence community are being brought in and interrogated by the military about why they think Joe Biden's not the true commander in chief, then there's something out there that's making those generals question who should they be reporting to. And, so there's definitely something going on, and we got this underlying tension. But I mean, we just don't. I think unfortunately, we just don't know how it's going to all play out, or why it hasn't played out to this point.
Yeah.
Well, what I can contribute is this. You're right. There's a lot of things we don't know, but what we can deduce information from is from what we know. So what do we know about so many of the different aspects? What is unfolding right now? I think I definitely believe there's been a proactive way of inducing mass formation and research for mass psychosis on how to control people. And that's been going on since the early 19th century. And they perfected that to such a level that is called today marketing. Marketing is a manipulation of psychology on how to entice people to believe a certain thing. And they apply the same kind of methodology, especially the left, what people call the liberal left. And that started effectively from what I can see. And perhaps you can give me some feedback on that. But I began noticing during the Clinton administration this overwhelming use of basically what they call legislative democracy. So we are in a republic. And according to a republic, all major decisions that affect 100% of the population should be made by 2/3 of the population. Once we get into the Clinton administration, that philosophy changed completely. In order to decide for 50%, for 100% of the population, you needed 51% to decide for the 100%. That's the shift. The shift from basically a representative of government, which we still have we have it in ideology, but not in fact, because that fact has been transitioned to legislative democracy. If you want to change a rule, and they started a lot of it in California, if you want to change a rule, all you need is 51%. What about the remaining 49%? We don't care. That's Marxism. Marxism basically is that kind of an ideology. The mob will win and will take rights away. So instead of, you can take the rule of smoking, for example. They used to have sections for smokers in restaurants. I understand that's bad for you and all of that, but that's the point I'm trying to make. The thing is, now no one can do it. So they've taken that away. This attack on nicotine, which, by the way, nicotine is essential especially for men to retain a higher level of testosterone. So you lower the nicotine, lower the testosterone, and you have more soy boys, more soy men, and you can manipulate them better because the man is supposed to be the figure that basically protects the household, protects the children, protects the wife, protects the temple of the household that's being destroyed systematically. So there's so many variables. There's so many factions playing here, attacking at all directions. And if it wasn't for the mainstream media and for the indoctrination institution, colleges, universities, the education department as a whole, and then you have basically the government, you have these three entities that back up each other, and they deliver a narrative, and that narrative is designed to basically control under hypnosis. So we went from an average. So it used to be, these are figures that you can look from a clinician association for psychology. And you can see that we've had a population 100 years ago where 5% of the population could be easily hypnotized. We fast forward to 2025, it's about 17 to 20%. You can go to 20 people, 17 people out of 100, and you can make them do what you want to if you're good at subliminal messaging. That's scary. That's so scary, right?
And it's interesting what you say about the nicotine. I have some friends who swear by nicotine gum, and they don't smoke because smoking's bad for your lungs. But it's like, I didn't know that it had a decrease in testosterone. I'm afraid to try it, but I have people who tell me, "Oh my God, I feel so good." I use these LifeWave patches, and I know people have gotten amazing results with those. We should get you in on that. And I know, and so I'm using those, but it's like, other people say, hell, just chew some nicotine gum and you're going to feel incredible. And the thing is, I'm afraid to do it because I don't want to get addicted. I had a friend once tell me I should have picked a less addicting drug like heroin.
What's addictive? It's not the gum. It's not the nicotine. Nicotine by default, it's not addictive because we already have the receptors in our bodies. What's addictive? And by the way, I used to smoke cigarettes, and to quit, it was impossible. Yeah. And then once I quit, now when I smoke a tobacco, a cigarillo, pure tobacco, I don't have a need. Yeah. I can smoke it once every 3 days, every 4 days. Cool. But I get the nicotine that I want. And even Tucker Carlson, he used to smoke, he stopped smoking, but now he chews tobacco. Yeah. And he goes, well, now I chew it, but I can do without it because I want to maintain my testosterone level. I mean,
and that's fascinating.
We show him that.
Well, we should.
You look at the 1960s when most men smoked, how much more masculine. I mean, look at Sean Connery's James Bond versus Roger Moore. It's like, or Pierce Brosnan, James Bland. Right. It's amazing that they've taken that out of there, really, Laura, to feminize men, American men, by making this big scourge against cigarette smoking. And maybe it's what kept us tough in the first place.
Yeah, let me answer that too.
Sorry.
Because that's okay. Because I was a smoker, back in college. I quit, whatever. But, let's think about this logically, okay? And I'm not, saying it's good, it's not good, but let's just think about it. Pure tobacco that was smoked by the Native Americans for thousands of years, right? Was it harming their lungs? I don't know, it probably wasn't. So now you have cigarettes that are another vehicle for them to put poisons in and to harm us, right? And now they vilify that. And by the way, I don't like necessarily being in a room where there's smoke. However, I'm also in favor of people having rights that when you go somewhere, you should be able to have a place that you could smoke. I mean, it's just part of people's rights. They're
I've never had an issue with an outdoor smoking area at any bar I've ever been. And if I don't want to go out there, I don't have to, right?
It's just controlling what people's freedoms are.
Yeah, but there was a time, I don't know if you remember, there was a time, and they put a lot of money behind this. So you can see the trend, you can see the patterns. There was a time where they were making fun of the Marlboro Man. The Marlboro Man, I don't know if you remember when the Marlboro Man died of lung cancer, and they had almost 24/7 on all the major cable newses, all this negativity. Then we have the huge lawsuits against the tobacco industry and all of that.
Organized.
It came to a time that if I was in the street, if I picked up a cigarette, people would look at me like, how dare you? It would be literally a mob mentality. And I go, oh, this is weird. Yeah, I don't know and now they apply that. By the way, now it's no longer like that, but now the same thing is about the hat. Yeah, the hat, the Trump hat now is the equivalent of you being a smoker back in those days.
Right, and it wasn't. You're saying it wasn't the cigarettes they wanted to get rid of for safety reasons. It was the Marlboro Man because of what he represented. That's what they wanted to get rid of. Fascinating, Laura.
Yeah. Not only that, but what they did is they tested a theory. The theory is, can we have people hate other people and control that hate? And they did it with cigarettes. And now they did it with Trump.
They tried
And
with
they've
COVID.
done
They tried with COVID and vaccinations, right? They tried the same
vaccination
thing.
with the masks,
Yep.
that's what they are doing. So they're taking away the ability of people to react and to say, hey, this is my boundary. You're overreaching now.
Right.
So that's fallen. That's no longer there. Now, most of the population, and when I say most, I don't mean us here. I mean most of the people that go there and put swastikas on Teslas, and people that get enraged and outraged out of this, and then they cannot prove their point. These are the same people that are being manipulated by the same techniques. And these techniques have been tested over and over. It was on cigarettes, and it was on masks, it was on vaccines. If you would have done the same thing you did with COVID vaccine back 30 years ago, it would not have worked. It would not have worked at all. I remember in 1980, I actually was in 2012 when they first did the test, the H1N1 vaccine, and they were like only 23 people died actually of the vaccine reaction. They cut it off. That's it. They said, no more. We're not going to go forward. Then you go back in 1980 when they did the flu vaccine, and I believe 12 people died. And they said,
swine flu. Yeah, swine flu. Yeah,
swine flu. Sorry. And then, so they test how much they can go. Then comes 2019, 2020, 2021. I remember when I first discovered the VAERS database. I was in June 2021, and I went to the VAERS database. You can download spreadsheets from there. And I tried to download 6 months. I believe it was in July. I wanted to download June 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2021. The database wouldn't do it because the file was too large. So I downloaded only 1 month, just 30 days. There were 50,000 adverse reactions.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And when I shared it with my friend and my colleagues, they looked at me going, they would argue with me. I go, look at the data. They would not look at the data. They would not look at the data. I go, look, I downloaded it. No, you didn't. You made this up. No, I downloaded. Look, this is the link. Go download it. So they created such a resistance, a psychological resistance against truth and verification processes.
Right. Laura, you got to get you in here. What you had something you wanted to say?
So, yep, totally, very much so. Oh my gosh. And even when hydroxychloroquine was being mentioned, oh, that's a bleach, and it's just like laughable and that kind of thing. The thing with nicotine, though, like Elisa said, the chemicals they put in it, the filters are a problem. There's even, if you look at all the ingredients in a lot of those cigarettes, there's even like asbestos, things that are going to cause, lung cancer. Native Americans would have mixed it with mullein even, that is good for the lungs. And if they had it, on its own, there was not an addiction. It was ceremonial. It clears the energetic space from negative spirits. And then Dr. Artis talks about nicotine patches to reverse things like Parkinson's. His wife actually reversed Parkinson's using nicotine patches, and how it assists with dissolving or dismantling the spike proteins, the nano tech in our bodies. So it's definitely really powerful. And the testosterone part, it's funny when you guys are talking about these characters, but look at things like NAD, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. The NAD is a coenzyme that's really, really powerful. It occurs in most living cells, but it drops when we age. And when you resupply the body with it, it actually supports the mitochondrial DNA and the ATP and reverses aging. So it's not exactly like the nicotine that you're going to smoke, but it is nicotine coenzyme. And that's when you said there were receptors in our bodies. I think of that. So snake venom and the things that were put in the vaxes and the spike proteins, like I said, Dr. Artis is a really good source to find out more about the nicotine stuff. But the thing is, yes, that repulsion to truth that they have really successfully implanted and infected people with makes people resist their own awakening and health and causes them to continue to defend the captors that are enslaving them and not realize how much further down that enslavement agenda they're actually going. So I think there's really this breaking point, and people manifest these crises in their life when it hits close enough to home. And when you really hit that rock bottom, that's when humans tend to turn around and begin to look for other alternatives. And if not, welcome to a life review, and see you on the other side. Maybe you'll come back again and figure it out.
And by the way, also another thing they put into current cigarettes, it's added sugar. 4% of the cigarette, it's added sugar by the manufacturer. So they put sugar into everything because it's the most addictive drug. It's not the natural occurring sugar that is in the tobacco leaf. They actually add inverted sugar. That's why people they chain smoke. After they put one down, they start another one. Put one down, start another one. You don't do that with regular tobacco. You do it, and then you do it maybe 6 hours later, or the day after.
And I was a smoker too. It was like Camels and whatever it was back then. And I mean, even like recess, I'd sneak out of the house too, and there would be like a bunch of black dots like on the wall. My mom kind of figured it out. But then, when I started to smoke pure tobacco, which I do on occasion, not a problem, just to do it every once in a while.
Yeah. I think we should definitely do a show on nicotine, because, there's so many comments now that are coming in through the chat, just like Remnant TJ7 says, it said that nicotine reduces symptoms of autism and is a published cure for Parkinson's disease, MS, Alzheimer's, myocarditis, ulcerative colitis, all arthritises, psoriasis, osteo, gout. So you have to figure, this is my rule of thumb in the last 5 years. If they're telling us something's bad, it's probably good, and if they're telling us something's good, it's probably bad. And so now we're waiting for that shift to start happening, where maybe the truth is actually going to start to be out there.
How many people do you think are going to light up after this?
Well, I may go try the gum. I may go try the gum.
I'm kidding. Yeah, the gum and the patch is much more recommended, I think.
Yeah.
Wow. I got to tell you this. I know, Mike, you got to go. I just want to is there anything else we want to add? I know usually we hit a bunch of topics, but I felt today was really important to go around, looking at educating people. And maybe this can be a video that a lot of people can share, because we did cover a lot of ground that is based in a lot of the facts that are out there.
Well, I think for me, the thing is that the war is not over, but I think we're just about in a position to turn the corner. And I really think our nuclear weapon, our Hiroshima moment, is that they start exposing some of this stuff. And I don't get why we're still playing these games. I don't understand why some of the stuff that's going on is still going on when they should know better. Trump continues to appear to be making a lot of mistakes with people he's appointing and things like that. It's like, why don't we just arrest Comey and arrest everybody involved with Russiagate? Let's just start there. Let's arrest them and figure out what, they're saying there's an investigation now into Russiagate. Well, hasn't there been one for the last 8 years? Well, we knew in 2015 that Barack Obama was spying on Trump at Trump Tower, which should have gotten him thrown in the jail. Why don't we just do it? So I'm ready for action. I'm tired of this sitting around. Let's invade Poland and get it over with.
Long and drawn out.
Right, hey, Mike, I want to wish you Godspeed today on Ingram and break.
Thanks. Yeah,
yes.
Hopefully the segment doesn't get bumped. That can happen. So if you don't see me, don't be surprised. But it will be cool.
Very proud of you. Proud one of our own is going to be speaking the truth on a network that generally we got to wonder what they're talking about. So good luck being on there. And you guys, this has been great. Thank you so much, Frank. Thank you so much for being here today and sitting in for Mel. I know Mel will be back next week. I will see you all next week. Everybody, thank you for tuning in, and have a wonderful rest of the week.
Thank you for having me, and thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Laura.
Thanks, Frank.
Bye.
Bye.